Hey there, welcome to the Knit Next to You podcast. My name is Delilah. I will be your host today. Today I'd like to discuss the difference between superwash and non-superwash wool. If this is something you'd like to learn more about, stay right here and we'll dive deeper. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me. This podcast is a long time coming. I wanted to share about this for some time now, and of course when I share my ideas with some of my friends, they're like, oh, you have to post it, you have to talk more about it. So I dug a little bit deeper, did some more research, and I wrote some notes down so that we can have all the information we need when we decide to knit something, whether it's a beanie, a sweater, a pattern. Sometimes patterns call for 100% wool. Sometimes the samples that the designers make the pattern after, and the patterns that you see in the pictures are what you see in the patterns, the directions, the qualities, all of those things, the choice yarns. It's really the suggestions for you. But if you look at the pictures and you want your personal garment to look like what's in the picture, they'll encourage you to get the wool. They'll encourage you to get the acrylic or hold double with a mohair and a wool. All of these things is suggestions. They are suggestions for you to choose what works best for you and how you would like your garment to feel so that you can wear it and feel your best, feel confident in what you wear. So back to this. The wool I wanted to share with you today is I have the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino. The Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino worsted weight is called Heavy Merino. And then I have Malabrigo Rios, and this is their worsted weight. This is the non-superwash, and this is the superwash. This is 100 grams, and then this is 50 grams. So there's a bit of a difference in the amount of yarn here, but I really want to dive deeper into the textures, the makeups of both of these yarns. So both of these yarns are 100% wool. 100% wool. These two yarns are applied together in such a fashion that it is created into yarn. Now, the yarn making process at a mill can be done differently, and that's where you get the superwash and then the non-superwash. If you look at these two cakes of yarn, they're both still fuzzy, they're both still wool, but one texture is a bit more grainier, a bit more coarse than the other. This one, the superwash wool, is much smoother. What makes it a bit smoother is the chemical process that it goes through. Sometimes it goes through chlorine or an acid bath, and then perhaps after it'll go in through a resin bath. And what this does compared to this non-superwash wool is that it removes the scales from the wool strands itself. So the chemicals are, the chemical wash the scales off of the wool, and it makes it smoother. Now, because it is smoother and it no longer has the coarse texture that 100% non-superwash wool has, it is a bit shinier. It is a bit smoother. When you knit up this superwash wool in a fabric, let's just say a sweater, it will not shrink as much if you put it in the dryer. But what it will do, it will distort the stitches just a little bit. If you stretch your sweater, it may stay stretched out. Because of the chemicals it undergoes, it doesn't have the capability of bouncing back. Sometimes when we stretch out, we don't have the capacity to bounce back. I sometimes feel like I can be a superwash strain of wool. Anyways, so with the superwash, you cannot bounce back the item. Another thing is that the stitches would be a bit stretched and distorted. So the garment that you have once blocked and set down, after wearing a certain period of time, it begins to stretch and take its own shape. Why? Because the scales that are on a non-superwash wool yarn is no longer there to grip itself into one another. It actually slides because those scales are no longer there. Another thing is that superwash wool is machine washable. You can stick this in your machine and it will be fine. Of course, make sure you have it on delicate and that it doesn't go into a crazy cycle and then your sweater is completely ruined. But just be careful. You are able to machine wash this. I typically just do a submerged bath with my items. I would submerge it and dry block it, or to keep it dry, or I like to set it out to dry. I won't be able to put my things in the washer, but it is machine washable. It doesn't shrink, as I mentioned before, and I was looking up the prices of superwash merino superwash yarn, and the prices tend to be the same, depend on where you go shopping. I believe superwash may be a bit more than the non-superwash wool. So this is the Malabrigo Rios color. Let me see what the color is. Rios 655. I had gotten this at a local yarn shop not too far from me. It's not in Orlando, but it's in another place. But this one was $17. I do want to share about the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino. Now this is just sharing. I believe this is my only 100% wool non-superwash that I have. So this is the example that I have for you today. It is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino, and this is their worsted weight yarn in Knitting for Olive. Now the non-superwashed wool, this is the most natural state that you can purchase this wool. There are some, and it is a color powder, but there are some yarns that have no color, that they literally come off the sheep's back, and it is treated in a way for it to become strands of yarn, and the color, it's all natural. There is that gray, there's that black, there's that white, and it's such a beautiful concept that you can buy the yarn, make your garment out of a yarn that has not been treated with color or any kind of chemicals. Such a beautiful thought. It just sounds so organic, so pure. But the thing is that I can't, in my neck and kind of like in my chest area, it's just really hard for me to handle this particular type of wool. So going back to that, this non-superwash wool is at its most natural state. So it did not go through any kind of chemical treatment to remove the scales or alter the properties of this particular wool. It is not treated. There's nothing to alter the natural properties. Believe it or not, because it is not treated, it is called to last longer than the superwash wool. It's called to last longer than the superwash wool because it's already, can I say mistreated? Treated in such a way it doesn't have the longevity characteristics as it would, as 100% non-superwash wool would have. What else? These two, as it being wool, they are warm. You can wear them and be warm, but this one would typically be a little bit warmer because it still has all of its properties. Between the two, this would be more of a matte finish. This would have a bit more of a shine, as I shared before. Of course, you would most definitely wash this by hand. You will not put this in the washing machine. You can if you want to, but it might be a disaster. 100% wool, not superwash, it may felt a little bit. Unless you were doing a felting project and that's something that fancies you, then go ahead and do it. But this will felt if you put it in the wash. This will not. The superwash merino will not. But at the end of the day, I feel like both of them would be altered in some way because it is 100% wool. And this, because it is not treated, it may even shrink just a little bit. when you wash it, you would want to wash it in cool water, just so that it can preserve the elasticity and preserve the size of the garment per se, your sweater. So I hope that made sense. I hope I brought clarity and understanding between the superwash wool and the non-superwash wool. Again, this is the 100% superwash wool from Malabrigo. It is color Rios 655. This is knitting for olive, and it is the color powder in the heavy merino, their worsted weight brand. So if you have any other questions, if you have any other comments, do you have any scary stories